Lila, your dad is leaving us, I said, the words tasting bitter on my tongue as I spoke them. They felt too heavy to say, but they were true. I saw the confusion on my daughter's face, her big eyes looking at me like I had just told her the world was ending. Why, Mom? What happened? She asked, her voice trembling. I could feel the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on me. I didn't mean to say it like that, but everything inside me was breaking apart. I had to tell her, even if it hurt. Because your dad thinks we're too much for him, I said softly. I watched as her face twisted in pain, trying to understand. My heart hurt seeing her like this, but the truth had to come out. That's not true, right, Mom? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes were wide, her face pale. She looked so much like her father, and I couldn't stop the flood of memories that rushed through me. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I said, trying to hold back my tears. I found out yesterday. I reached for her hand across the table. It felt like a barrier between us now. Our kitchen table, the place where we had shared so many family dinners, now felt cold and distant. Lila shook her head, her lips trembling. No, Mom. Dad loves us. He wouldn't do this. Her voice was full of conviction, and it stabbed at my heart. How could I explain what I had found? How could I tell her about the receipt I had found tucked in Caleb's jacket pocket? A receipt for a diamond necklace I had never seen before. A necklace that was meant for another woman. I wanted to protect her from all of it, but I couldn't. Before I could speak, the front door slammed open, making both of us jump. Caleb stormed into the room, his face hard and angry. Serafina, what's going on? Why is Lila crying? He demanded. I could feel my anger rising. You know exactly why, Caleb. Why don't you tell her about your little secret? I couldn't hold back anymore. The hurt, the betrayal, all of it had to come out. His eyes widened in surprise, but he quickly tried to cover it up. Serafina, now's not the time, he started, but I cut him off. Oh, it's the perfect time. Were you planning on giving that necklace to her for Christmas or her birthday? My voice was shaking with anger. Lila looked up at her father, her eyes full of tears. Dad, is it true? She whispered, barely able to speak. Caleb's shoulders slumped, and he looked like he didn't know how to answer. Lila, it's complicated, he said, his voice soft. Your mother and I, we've grown apart. Grown apart? I laughed bitterly, but there was no humor in it. Is that what you call sneaking around behind my back? I couldn't believe what he was saying. Lila, still crying, covered her ears and shouted, Stop it! Stop fighting! She ran out of the room, leaving us both standing there, in the ruins of our family. My heart broke for her. I want you to leave, I said, my voice quiet but firm. Pack your things and go. Caleb's face turned hard. You can't just throw me out, Serafina. This is my house too, he shouted. Not anymore, I replied, meeting his gaze. You made your choice. Now live with it. I turned away from him, not wanting to see his face any longer. As he turned to leave, I called after him, and tell your mother she can stop pretending she doesn't know about Edith. Her little game is over. I saw the look of shock on Caleb's face, and for a moment, it almost felt like a small victory. But the victory was hollow. I stood there, staring at the empty driveway. Caleb's car was gone, and so were his things. The house felt so empty now. It was like the life we once had been taken away. I turned to Lila, who had come back into the room. Her face was still red from crying. Lila, I said, my voice soft, we didn't do anything wrong. Your father made these choices. It's not your fault. She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. She was still trying to make sense of it all. I pulled her into my arms, holding her close. Her little body shook as she cried against me, and I felt like I was breaking inside. The phone rang, breaking the silence. I wiped my eyes before picking it up. It was Diana Blackwell, my best friend. Serafina, how are you holding up? She asked gently. It's been rough, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Caleb left this morning. I don't know what to do. That bastard, Diana Blackwell said angrily. Do you want me to come over? She offered. Before I could answer, there was a sharp knock at the door. Hold on, Diana Blackwell, I said, setting the phone down. I walked to the door and opened it to find Edith, Caleb's mother, standing there with a cold look on her face. Well, Serafina, she said, her voice dripping with disdain, I hope you're happy now. You've driven my son away. I felt my blood boil. Edith, now's not the time, I said, trying to stay calm. But she pushed past me, entering the house. If you had been a better wife, maybe this wouldn't have happened, she said cruelly. Stop it, Lila shouted, her voice full of anger. It's not Mom's fault. Edith's face softened for a moment as she looked at her granddaughter. Oh, Lila dear, I know this is hard to understand. Sometimes things just happen in marriages. I clenched my fists, fighting to keep my voice steady. Edith, I think you should leave now, I said. Edith gave me a sharp look. This isn't over, Serafina. Caleb will come to his senses. And when he does, I'll make sure he knows exactly who's to blame for all of this. She left, slamming the door behind her, and I felt the weight of it all settle on me. I looked at Lila's face, and my heart broke. I picked up the phone again. Diana Blackwell, I think you should come over. I need you, I said weakly. As I sat at the kitchen table with Diana Blackwell later, the full reality of what had happened hit me. What am I going to do, Diana Blackwell? How do I protect Lila from all of this? I whispered, tears finally spilling out. Diana Blackwell took my hand. One day at a time, Serafina. We'll figure it out together. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Caleb. We need to talk about the house and finances. Meet me tomorrow at the cafe on Main Street. Come alone. I showed Diana Blackwell the message. What more could he possibly want? I asked, feeling sick to my stomach. No matter what happens, Diana Blackwell said firmly, remember, you're stronger than you think. You're not alone in this. I took a deep breath, trying to gather strength. Tomorrow would bring more hard things, but for now, I had to be strong for Lila. Somehow, we had to find a way to move forward, even with everything falling apart. Later, as I hugged Lila again, she said quietly, Mom, I saw Dad with another woman today. Who is she? Lila's voice shook as she rushed through the front door. She looked both angry and confused. My heart sank. I had hoped to protect her from this part of Caleb's betrayal. Honey, sit down, I said, patting the couch beside me. Tell me what happened. She sat down beside me, her eyes full of tears. I was at the mall with Jess, and I saw them outside the jewelry store. He was holding her hand and laughing, she said, her voice breaking. I felt a wave of anger. How dare Caleb show off his affair like that? Did he see you? I asked. Lila shook her head. No, I hid. But, Mom, she looked so young. Maybe my age, or just a little older. My stomach dropped. Caleb's girlfriend wasn't just younger. She was almost a child. I tried to keep my voice steady. I'm so sorry you had to see that. Who is she? Lila asked again. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to see Edith standing there, looking disapproving. Serafina, she said coldly, walking past me. We need to talk about Caleb. Lila stood up, her eyes full of anger. Grandma, did you know about Dad's girlfriend? Edith looked pale. I didn't know it had gone this far, she whispered, looking guilty. I felt a quick moment of pity for Edith, but it was soon replaced by anger. Edith, I think it's time you left. Lila and I have a lot to talk about. I closed the door behind her and turned to see Lila looking at me, confused and hurt. Mom, she said softly, what do we do now? I took a deep breath, realizing that it was time to tell Lila the truth. Now, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. we fight back. Your father can't just walk away from his responsibilities. It's time we showed him and that woman exactly who they're messing with. Lila nodded, the spark in her eyes coming back. I'm with you, Mom. All the way. As we sat down to plan what to do next, I felt a mix of worry and determination. The road ahead would be hard, but with Lila by my side, I knew we could handle anything. Caleb didn't know what he had just started. You knew about this, Edith, I said, my voice shaking with anger as I stood in Edith's neat living room. You knew Caleb was cheating and you said nothing? Edith's eyes widened and a bit of guilt showed on her face before she quickly hid it. Serafina, dear, I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about, she said, trying to act sweet. Don't lie to me. Not now, I said, shaking with anger. Lila saw them together at the mall. Your son was walking around with a woman young enough to be his daughter. Edith's calm face cracked. She sank into her chair, suddenly looking very old. I didn't want to believe it, she whispered. I felt tears come to my eyes. How long, Edith? How long have you known about Caleb's affair? Edith didn't look me in the eye. A few months. I found a hotel receipt in his jacket when he came back from one of his trips. I confronted him, but he promised it was a one-time mistake. I couldn't believe it. And you believed him? Or did you just not want to face the truth? I want to protect this family, Edith said, her eyes flashing. If people found out, it would ruin Caleb's career. It would ruin our reputation in the community. I thought he would come to his senses. I felt the weight of her betrayal hit me all at once. All the years of snide comments. And she had known all along that her son was the one tearing apart our family. Protect the family? I echoed. By letting your son destroy us? By watching him hurt Lila. Edith flinched when I mentioned her granddaughter. I never meant for Lila to get hurt, she said. I thought if we kept it quiet, Caleb would realize what he was risking. I shook my head, disgust rising in me. Your silence made you just as guilty as he is. As I turned to leave, Edith called out, her voice shaking. Serafina, wait. What are you going to do? I stopped at the door, feeling a new strength inside me. I'm going to do what you should have done months ago, I said, turning to face her. I'm going to fight for my family. What's left of it? As I drove home, my mind raced. The lies, the hurt, everything that had happened, it was almost too much to handle. But as I pulled into the driveway, I saw Lila waiting on the porch, her face lighting up when she saw me. In that moment, I knew exactly what I had to do. No more hiding. No more protecting Caleb or his reputation. It was time to take control and show Lila that we could survive this, that we could be stronger for it. I took a deep breath, straightened my back, and walked to meet my daughter. Lila, I said, my voice calm, we need to talk. It's time we make some decisions about our future. She looked at me, her eyes full of both fear and determination. What do you mean, Mom? I mean, I said, taking her hand, it's time we stop letting other people control our story. Your father, your grandmother, they've had their say. Now it's our turn. As we walked into the house together, I felt strong. The road ahead would be hard, but for the first time in months, I felt ready. Caleb and Edith had no idea what they had just started. It was time for me to show everyone exactly what Serafina West was made of. It was time for him to face the consequences. He couldn't just walk away from this. I walked back and forth in the living room, my mind spinning with thoughts. Diana Blackwell sat on the couch, watching me carefully. Serafina, I agree he needs to face what he's done. But what exactly are you planning? She asked, looking worried. I stopped and turned to her. I'm going to expose him, Diana Blackwell. Not just to us, but to everyone. Diana Blackwell raised her eyebrows. Are you sure that's a good idea? What about Lila? I'm thinking about Lila, I said. She deserves to know the truth. We both do. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Is this Serafina? We need to talk. It's about Caleb. Meet me at Riverside Park at 3 p.m. tomorrow. I showed Diana Blackwell the message. My heart was pounding. Do you think it's Natalie? I asked. It could be, but Serafina, be careful. This might be a trap, Diana Blackwell said, frowning. I nodded, thinking hard. I'll meet her, but I won't go alone. I need you there with me, and I need your help with something else. Over the next hour, we made a plan. Diana Blackwell would stay nearby while I met Natalie, ready to help if anything went wrong. Meanwhile, I would gather every bit of evidence I could find. Bank statements, phone records, anything that proved Caleb had lied and betrayed us. When night came, I sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers. I found a USB drive, one of Caleb's old work backups. My hands were shaking as I plugged it into my laptop. What I saw made my heart stop. Not only were there emails showing Caleb's affair, but also financial records with big sums of money being sent to an offshore account. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. Caleb was mixed up in something much worse. I called Diana Blackwell right away. We need to change the plan, I said, my voice shaking. This goes beyond just exposing the affair. Caleb could be in serious trouble. Diana Blackwell sounded worried. Serafina, you need to be careful. This could be dangerous. I know, I said, taking a deep breath. But I can't back down now. Lila and I deserve the truth, no matter how bad it is. As I hung up, I heard Lila's footsteps coming down the stairs. She stood in the doorway, her eyes red from crying. Mom, she said softly. What's going on? Looking at her worried face. I made a decision that would change everything. Sit down, honey, I said, patting the chair next to me. There's something I need to tell you about your father. Tomorrow, we're going to do something about it. I began explaining everything to her. As I spoke, I felt a mix of fear and determination. No matter what happened next, there was no turning back. Caleb's perfect life was about to be shattered, and I was going to be the one to do it. The next day, I walked into a crowded ballroom. Everyone was chatting and laughing, but when I walked in, all eyes turned to me. I stood tall and said loudly, Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's something you all need to know about Caleb Thornton. Caleb looked shocked. His face went pale when he saw me. Serafina, what are you doing? He asked, his voice full of panic. This is exactly the place, I said. Your colleagues and your friends deserve to know who you really are. I pulled out the USB drive and held it up. On this drive is proof of not just Caleb's affair, but also a big financial scam that could get this whole company in trouble. The room gasped. I saw Natalie, Caleb's mistress, push her way through the crowd. She looked confused and hurt. Serafina, please, Caleb begged, trying to stop me. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said, my voice steady. You've been stealing money and hiding it in secret accounts. And while doing that, you've been cheating on me with a woman half your age. Natalie looked shocked. What? Caleb, you told me you were divorced. The room was full of whispers and gasps. Caleb's boss, red-faced with anger, stormed over to us. Caleb, is this true? He demanded. Caleb tried to explain, but his words were all jumbled. I can explain, sir. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, I said, handing the USB drive to Caleb's boss. Everything is on this drive. Emails, bank records, hotel receipts. Just then, 2 security guards came up to Caleb and started grabbing him. I'm sorry you got caught up in this, I said to Natalie. She had tears in her eyes as she nodded. She turned and ran away from the scene. Caleb, now furious, rushed at me. You ruined everything, he screamed. But before he could reach me, the guards held him back. No, Caleb, I said, my voice shaking just a little. You ruined everything. I'm just making sure you face the consequences. As Caleb was led away, the room filled with talking and gossip. I felt Diana Blackwell's hand on my shoulder. You did it, Serafina, she whispered. It's over. But as I watched Caleb being taken out, his eyes full of hate as he glared at me, I knew it wasn't over. This was just the beginning. Things were about to change for all of us. I took a deep breath. Let's go home, I said to Diana Blackwell. Lila is waiting. As we left, I felt a mix of relief, fear, and the strong feeling that nothing would ever be the same again. You have no place in this family anymore, Caleb, I said as we stood in our living room. He looked angry and desperate. It had been 3 days since everything came out, and the fallout had been fast and harsh. Serafina, please, he begged, his voice shaky. I can explain everything. The money, Natalie, it's not what you think. I felt Lila standing behind me, holding my arm for support. There's nothing left to explain, Caleb, she said. You've lost your job, your reputation, and now you're losing your family. It's over. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. When I looked out the window, I saw 2 police cars parked outside. My heart started racing. I opened the door and saw 2 police officers. One of them spoke to me. Mrs. Bennett, we have a warrant for Caleb Thornton's arrest. As they came inside, Caleb's face turned pale. Serafina, don't let them do this. Think about Lila. He turned to our daughter. I looked at Lila and said, Lila, go to your room. You don't need to see this. But she didn't move. No, Mom. I need to see it all. I need to understand. The officers read Caleb his rights and put handcuffs on him. He begged me again, Serafina, I did it all for us, for our future. You have to believe me. I felt so angry. Our future, I said. You destroyed our future, Caleb. You ruined everything we worked for. As they took him away, Edith, his mom, rushed through the door, her face full of anger and sadness. What have you done, Serafina? How could you do this to my son? She cried. I stood firm. I didn't do this, Edith. Caleb did, and you helped him by keeping his secrets. Edith's face turned sad, and she sat down on the couch, crying. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought I was protecting our family. Lila spoke up, her voice shaking but strong. Well, you both failed us. Edith cried harder, and I felt so tired. The past few days had been so stressful. I felt empty and unsure about everything. Lila turned to me, her eyes filled with pain, but also determination. What do we do now, Mom? I took a deep breath and hugged her close. We start rebuilding together. As we stood there, watching the police cars drive away with Caleb, I felt a strange feeling of relief mixed with fear. The storm was over, but there was still a long road ahead. I looked at Lila and saw how strong she was. Whatever came next, we would face it together. We were the Bennett women, stronger than ever. Thank you for being there for me, Mom. I love you, Lila said, her words making me feel better. We stood outside the courthouse after the trial. Caleb had been sentenced, and I watched as he was taken away in handcuffs. I felt a mix of relief and sadness, but mostly I felt like I could finally close this chapter. I love you too, sweetheart, I said, pulling her close. We made it through this together. When we walked out of the courthouse, Diana Blackwell was waiting for us with a proud smile. And there, standing awkwardly to the side, was Edith. Serafina, Edith said, her voice shaking. I owe you an apology. To both of you. Lila stiffened beside me, but I squeezed her hand and gave her a reassuring look. It's okay, Edith. We've all been through a lot. Edith's eyes filled with tears. I was wrong about you, Serafina. You're stronger than I ever thought. And Lila, she turned to my daughter, I'm so proud of the young woman you've become. As we stood there, this strange group of women brought together by pain and betrayal, I felt a change in the air. It was like the weight of everything from the past months was finally lifting. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope for the future. So, what now? Diana Blackwell asked, breaking the moment. I looked at Lila and saw the same determination in her eyes that I felt in my heart. Now, we rebuild together. Over the next few weeks, our lives started to look different. Lila worked hard on her college applications, and I started taking classes at the local community college to rediscover old passions I had forgotten about. Even Edith became a more positive part of our lives. She felt guilty about the past, but was now really trying to help and support us. One evening, Lila and I sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset. She turned to me, serious. "Mom, I want you to know something," she said. "What you did. Standing up to Dad and telling the truth, it showed me what real strength is. I'm proud to be your daughter." Tears filled my eyes as I hugged her tightly. "Oh, Lila, you've been my strength through all of this. We've both grown so much." As we sat there, holding each other, I realized that while our family might look different now, it was stronger than ever. The pain from Caleb's betrayal had turned us into something new, resilient, honest, and unbreakable. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I knew we could handle whatever came our way. We had made it through the storm, and now we were ready for what came next. We weren't just survivors. We were warriors. Looking at Lila, her face glowing in the fading light, I knew that the best was yet to come. The wounds would heal, the scars would fade, and we would write our own happy ending one day at a time. Together, hand in hand, mother and daughter against the world. If the story resonated with you or sparked new thoughts, I'd love to hear your perspective. Please share your insights in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay connected and never miss our upcoming videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.